Next, we have Kurt Nagle. He has over 30 years' experience in Washington, D.C. related to seaports and international trade. Since 1995, he served as president and CEO for the American Association of Port Authorities. Kurt previously served as Director of International Trade for the National Coal Association and Assistant Secretary for the Coal Exporters Association. He's also worked in the U.S. Department of Commerce in the Office of International Economic Research. Kurt serves on various committees in his field and holds a master's degree in economics from George Mason. Will you come, Kurt?
Thanks, John, and good morning. As John mentioned, our organization is the American Association of Port Authorities, and for those that might not be familiar, our association represents about 150 of the public port agencies throughout the Western Hemisphere. We have 85 seaports within the United States, including Nagle's Port of Baltimore, which I'm actually heading over to this afternoon for a meeting. And as well as those in the United States, we represent the public port agencies in Canada, the Caribbean, and Central and South America. And for our membership throughout the hemisphere, our primary responsibility is really serving as that forum for collaboration, sharing of experiences, sharing of best practices, lessons learned, including in issues related to sustainability and environmental enhancement. Our overall industry goals are to keep seaports navigable, secure, and sustainable. I think we're all aware of the critical role that ports play in terms of the exchange of goods internationally. And we can provide really the link in that regard. We increase standard of living throughout the world, and these issues in terms of keeping those ports secure, navigable, and sustainable is really a key priority of our association. Basically, seaports support right now about 13 million jobs in the United States, and certainly related to President Obama's initiative to double exports in the next 5 years. Each $1 billion of an increase in exports creates about 15,000 new jobs in the United States, so we're very supportive of that effort and working with the administration, Department of Commerce, et cetera, toward that goal. Literally almost everything that we buy or consume, our coffee this morning, a lot of the clothes we're wearing came through a seaport. About 95% of all of our international trade overseas comes through our seaports, and in turn about everything we sell internationally, whether it's U.S. manufactured goods, our agricultural products, grain, coal, et cetera, flows through our ports. So they're absolutely critical pieces of our overall nation's transportation infrastructure. Some of the things coming through, obviously, automobiles, both for export and imports, produce from South America, wind turbine components. We've seen more and more of our ports be involved in the imports of turbine components for wind farms, as well as the agricultural and coal products I mentioned as far as our nation's exports. Essentially everything that happens at a seaport obviously has an economic impact to it, a jobs impact, and obviously an environmental impact as well. Neil mentioned as far as their role in terms of being environmental stewards. Again, our agencies, similar to Neil's, are public agencies. They're either chartered by individual cities, counties, states, multi-state agencies, but they're public agencies. So in addition to facilitating commerce and developing the infrastructure required to handle that trade, they are stewards of their coastal environments. And as I mentioned, part of our core mission and focus is, that's not good. Sorry, I knocked over a drink here. That's okay as long as it's not your equipment there.
It'll be okay. I'll try and get some more.
One of our core missions, as I say, is to be stewards of the coastal environment. And we developed a sustainability program. We have an ongoing sustainability task force to promote sustainability as a standard business practice for our membership. And clearly that's not only good for the environment, but it's good for our port's business as well. We also have a web-based environmental toolkit which we've recently developed, and a library of the case studies, again, that our members can utilize. As I mentioned, a key part of what we do is really serving as an opportunity to exchange best practices, lessons learned, not only what works but what doesn't work, so ports don't have to reinvent the wheel when they're looking at a project, whether it be infrastructure or environment. And essentially at this, certainly at this point, every project that our member ports are involved in have significant environmental enhancements as part of those projects. Our ports are really working to identify solutions that, again, not only mitigate environmental impacts, but to provide really enhancements to the coastal resources. And they do that through principally three areas: things that directly enhance the coastal environment, managing their environmental impact of their operations and investments in infrastructure, and also engaging stakeholders and community members, similar to what both John and Neil mentioned in terms of some of the things that their organizations are doing. In terms of enhancing the coastal environment, we're working to improve the air quality, water quality, and positive environmental attributes on the land side through things like partnerships and independent projects, working to reduce air emissions. There's a great deal underway in terms of diesel emission reductions, working to find solutions to the issues related to aquatic invasive species, and also protecting and, importantly, creating wildlife habitats. Some of the projects involved are voluntary air emissions reductions, working through a variety of programs, including the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act program within the Environmental Protection Agency, habitat restoration, beneficial reuse of dredged material. Most of our navigation channels throughout this country require regular maintenance dredging to just keep the channels at their required dimensions, depths, and widths to accommodate the cargo and the trade flowing through our ports. And a great deal of that dredged material is being used for beneficial uses in terms of whether it's habitat creation, et cetera. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple of slides. And then also, again, as Neil was talking about, more and more community outreach in terms of getting the communities involved at the early stages of a project. A couple of specific examples: the Port of Houston used dredged material from their ship channel to create and enhance environmental habitats. One closer to home, and again related to Neil's point about the Chesapeake Bay, and it's a critical part of the area here in certainly in the Mid-Atlantic states and Maryland in particular. The Maryland Port Administration pioneered beneficial uses of dredged material in the Chesapeake Bay in terms of restoring some eroding islands and creating habitat. A couple other projects, along with the Port of Oakland, the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission is working in conjunction with the Army Corps of Engineers to restore a couple of former airfields back to a natural tidal and wetland. And there's a significant project underway in the Hudson Raritan Estuary area, working with the Port Authority of New York, New Jersey, that is going to utilize 100% of the dredged material from their ongoing deepening project for beneficial uses such as island and wetland restoration. Really looking at all of the uses of that estuary and human and environmental, and working together toward beneficial uses in that regard. One of the things we've been working on recently with the Council of Environmental Quality in the White House recently, as they've been developing a ocean policy, is the issue of marine spatial planning, which, while most of you are probably familiar with it, was relatively new to most of our folks, and it's essentially similar to zoning on the land side, but for the water and talking about what are the best and most appropriate uses and protecting certain areas for certain uses, whether that's for wind energy, environmental protection, navigation, et cetera. So it provides an opportunity to really plan for the future, what are going to be the needs of those areas, and ensure that all of those needs are met. There's been a couple of projects in terms of marine spatial planning that have been done at the state level in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. Our port authorities in those states have been involved in that process, and they found it to be, I think, a very valuable process that, again, enabled all of the critical needs for the marine environment to be considered going forward. In terms of managing environmental impact, our ports are comprehensively managing their impact by developing really policies and goals that address the seaport's commitment to the environment. We have a environmental management systems assistance project that the association put together a few years ago. It's a 2-year program, and we're just completing now our 3rd round of that. We're going to be starting a 4th round probably later this year. We've had about 25 ports to date that have gone through that program, and it really helps them develop and implement an EMS program for an ongoing basis at their ports for a variety of their operations and/or infrastructure development. A number of ports, I'm sure many of you are aware of the things being done in Southern California, up in the Pacific Northwest, and in a variety of points up and down the East Coast and in the Gulf as well, in terms of clean truck program, variety of programs geared toward trying to speed up the replacement or the retrofitting of older diesel engines on the drayage trucks that are moving cargo into and out of ports to significantly improve the air quality in those areas. And the Massachusetts Port Authority has adopted a sustainable design standards and guidelines that they utilize for all of their projects to look at it from a sustainability standpoint in terms of everything that they do at the Massachusetts Port Authority. And more of our ports are looking at those types of things. Again, a little bit closer to home here, the Virginia Port Authority has a green operators program that's geared toward, again, not only retrofitting some of the older vehicles, but also recognizing some of their partners in the maritime industry for things that those partners have done or are doing in terms of setting and achieving goals related to reducing air pollution and greenhouse gas related to the transportation of goods in and around the port. The third thing that the ports are doing, again, similar to what Neil talked about, is really engaging all of their stakeholders and their communities involved at the very beginnings of the process to work together to really identify potential issues, and then working together to find solutions and jointly craft a vision that not only benefits, obviously, the seaport, but it benefits their neighbors in the community and benefits the workers at the port. Couple of examples there. Again, the Maryland Port Administration utilized, and they were really, again, one of the early ports to do this. They developed a community-led process to evaluate and select a placement site for dredge material from Baltimore Harbor, and it ultimately resulted in the redevelopment of not only some coastal resources, but also a community in the Masonville area that was in certainly a decaying situation, and that has not only, again, helped from an environmental standpoint, but from a community standpoint, and is really, I think, one of the great examples of some of the creative things that ports are doing, working with their communities that has both a community benefit as well as an environmental benefit related to their projects. In fact, the port hosted the new EPA regional administrators back last fall, and had the opportunity to take them out to see that project. Also, the Port of Portland has developed an environmental outreach and communications program. Again, as really a two-way street with their community in terms of sharing information and getting feedback on projects and things that make sense for the community as well as the port. And the South Carolina State Ports Authority has a Low Country Alliance, again, where they're working with their communities and their civic leaders to create a community mitigation plan for one of its container terminals. Certainly looking in terms of what's ahead. Right now, our ports are more and more working in partnership with environmental agencies, NGOs, and communities. They're investing millions of dollars in initiatives designed to reduce their impact on the environment. And as I said at the beginning, every project that a port undertakes, whether it's a expansion of an existing terminal, whether it's a project to improve their navigation channel, or whether it's a landside access project, all of those projects have significant environmental enhancements as part of the project. As Neil mentioned, it's more of a situation where we're looking toward how we can make environmental enhancements as part of the project, as opposed to just strictly mitigation type efforts. And also around the country, we certainly have the opportunity to create far more green collar type jobs. The Port of Los Angeles is investing in a number of research projects that can help develop cleaner energy type vehicles, et cetera, that the port can utilize, as well as for drayage into and out of the port, that has not only the immediate impact of creating jobs in terms of that research and development of these new technologies, but also then obviously for the implementation of those types of developments. And I've certainly appreciated the opportunity to be here and to give you at least a little bit of a sense of what ports are doing now and what they're looking to do into the future in terms of environmental enhancements. Again, as I mentioned, our ports are public agencies, so part of their mission, while one of their missions clearly is the facilitation of commerce, also being stewards of the coastal environment, are part and parcel of what they do on a daily basis. Thank you.